In today's video, we're going to be finally putting the turbo kit on the truck once again. Now, I know a few of you don't know this, but this truck actually was boosted on this channel, and I think I did like a little short turbo series on how to turbo your hard body. Now, I ended up taking the whole turbo kit off because I ended up getting surgery and blah blah blah, and I couldn't work on the truck, so I was going to sell the truck, and I didn't want to sell it with the turbo kit, so I took everything that I had on there off, and I posted it for dirt cheap. No one wanted it, and then I just ended up building the truck. So now I wasn't planning on actually boosting the truck again, but I started to clean out my garage and I noticed how many turbo parts I had, and I thought, why do I have all these turbo parts laying around when I could throw them on the truck and have some fun with the truck? So the turbo that I'm going to be running is an eBay turbo. I think it's like a 60 trim turbo, so it's actually pretty big for this size motor to 2.4 liter. So I do have a Garrett T25 that I was going to put on my 240 that I'm probably going to end up swapping. But I just want to see how much boost and how long this eBay turbo will last, since I know it's on its way out and it's an eBay turbo. I kind of want to see how long it'll last from me abusing it, so that's what I'm going to be using in this application. I'm probably going to be making a bunch of separate videos on everything that's going to be going on into turboing this truck, because I don't want to make this video too long. I know I've already talked a lot, but I'm trying to get through this as fast as possible. That way you guys understand what I'm doing and all that. Right here I have a simple boost gauge, because obviously you need to know how much boost you're running. That is kind of like a mandatory thing. Over here I have my wideband O2 sensor. It's a Summit one, so that should work pretty good. I'm going to be welding a bung into the little elbow piece that I welded onto there. And as far as my oil feed, I have this little T that is going to be going into the oil pressure sending unit. And then this piece is going to go onto my turbo. I already have my drain on the truck hooked up. I just have a little plastic bag because I was cleaning the engine bay a little bit. But that's already there, so we're good to go. So this right here is pretty much the turbo kit that I'm going to be running. I got a Rev 9 exhaust turbo manifold. It's for the single cam KA, obviously, and a T3, T4 flange. I'm going to be running my eBay turbo. I just want to see how long this thing will last. And then as far as wastegate, I have an eBay wastegate on there that's set to about 5 pounds. I have a little 2-inch to 2.5-inch 90 right here that I got in order to run my 2.5-inch intercooler piping. I have a small intercooler that I had laying around, so I'm going to be using this. And then I have some 90s right there, 90s there. And then I have a little elbow piece that I was messing around with, doing some TIG aluminum. So I ended up knocking this out just for fun, and I was going to actually use it for a cold air intake, but it should work for this application. So I know that's probably the hardest thing when it comes to turboing a hard body, is that you have this stock style carburetor setup for your throttle body. So that should bolt right on. So once I bolt this on, plug in my MAF, we should be good to go. Like I said, all this is temporary. For example, this turbo is temporary. This thing is going to go anytime soon. I'm going to be throwing in my Garrett turbo in place of this turbo, but I just want to see how much boost and if this eBay turbo can even hold the abuse that I'm going to be putting it through. And the exhaust I will be redoing once I get everything situated. Now, as far as tuning, I'm not going to be running a sort of standalone ECU or anything like that. I'm just going to be running the stock ECU with a piggyback and a fuel pressure regulator, and just kind of doing it on a budget. At least that's the whole plan of all this, is just using what I have. And if I have to spend, then I don't mind it, but I have all the stuff to turbo this truck. So rather than having it be laid out in my messy garage, I'd rather just have it on the truck. One, cleans up my garage, and two, I have a turbo to use, so can't go wrong with that. But I will be explaining how I have everything set up and how I personally tuned my truck in order to run the turbo. First step is going to be removing the stock manifold out. Like I said, I'm going to be planning on welding this to the stock exhaust just for now, until I am able to purchase the whole exhaust back. I think I'm going to be running a 2.5-inch from the turbo all the way back, and then maybe a 3-inch tip. Also, one thing to note is that I already got rid of all my emission stuff. I'll have a video up before this video in case you guys want to check that out. I ended up removing my grill, since my intercooler is going to sit right here. You can see the holes I have for the intercooler piping to go through. Exhaust is all unbolted. I just unplugged my sensor, and now I'm going to pull it all out. Now I got the manifold out, so now I'm going to throw my fresh gasket on here, and this is already clean, good to go. So now I'm going to be actually bolting on the turbo. Turbo is now all fully bolted down. I have the oil drain all tight and ready to go. As far as the feed, I I briefly mentioned this, but I'll kind of go over it again. I know it's kind of dirty. There's multiple ways to run this, but I did it the cheapest way. So I have a, this is considered an X, but just imagine a T. So it's a T and it has a bunch of female ends. So what I did is I got this, I don't know the proper name, but it's a male end on this side, male end that goes into this side. So this screws into this, and over here I just got a plug that's a male, goes into here, blocks that off. Over here I have a high pressure line right here, that's a male that goes into the X right there, and then over here I have a female end that is open. So up there, right where the STP oil filter is, right there is the oil pressure switch, which is a male end that goes into the housing of that. So now what I did is this male end right here threads into that one. So you take that off, thread this in. So once you thread that in, you have 1, 2, 3 open spots. So now one of them, which is the one over here, is what I thread my oil pressure switch into. So I still get an oil pressure reading. So now it's taken up 2. And then now this one right here is my high pressure line that goes to my turbo. Now I'm just left with 1. So what I did with this one is I just capped it. Now if you have an oil pressure gauge, then you can go straight into this and it'll read your oil pressure and you'll be good to go. I went with this route because this X fitting is probably like $5, and an oil sandwich plate, which goes where your filter goes. It's pretty much a spacer before your oil filter, and it has the same deal. You have a bunch of lines that you can run off, so you can have your oil pressure line, which is what a lot of people do. The only downfall to that is that they're about $100 or even more expensive. So this is super cheap. But also with the other one, you can run an external oil cooler since they have big old AM lines into them. So that is the kind of, I guess, the upside of using one of those. But if you're not using an oil cooler, then you could run this and it's a lot cheaper. And it works. And you could also run an oil pressure gauge. So if you look all up in there, that little hole right there is where I'm going to be threading it in, and that's where the oil pressure switch goes. I got the exhaust all done and I made it. Now I didn't really show you guys how I did it in depth and all that, but what I ended up doing is, you can kind of see, I used the downpipe that I had before. I went to there, did a couple pipe cuts to come around into the stock exhaust, and then I went into the stock exhaust. So I have stock exhaust from about here all the way back, and I have a muffler delete, and I have, well, I don't have a cat delete, but my cat just got a huge hole from scraping and all of the insides of the cat fell out. So it's pretty much straight piped. It's not that loud because it is all 2-inch exhaust, but it does sound pretty good. It sounds like a 2.4. All right, now this is the hardest part to turbo a hard body, is just simply the throttle body adapter. That's what this thing is called. So it's not, a lot of people think it's a carb setup, but you can see the green things right there. That's your injector. So this is fuel injected, but it has a carburetor style throttle body. So I don't know why they did that, why they didn't just share the same one as the 240. I'm not sure if it's a packaging deal thing or to identify the difference from a truck intake and a car intake. I don't know the difference, but yeah, this thing is off now. So you can see it has this little paper gasket that I'm going to rip off. Right here I have a new gasket. This is a Felpro 61471, in case anybody wants to find this. This is a 97, so they did change from the later models. I have another one I can show you. So this one I got, and this is from an older truck. Now the design is very similar, but you can see the air from the MAF has to go through here and then come out through the top. It has this little ring, whereas the one that I have doesn't have that. So the air comes in through the MAF, you can see, and instead of having that ring, it has to go over that little lip that's already there to go into the throttle body. So that, which you can't tell because they're on the truck, but the way you can tell the difference is the MAF. So this one has 3 holes for a 3-hole MAF, and this one has a 2-hole for a MAF. So I'm not exactly sure what that has anything to do with, because when I had my MAF go bad, this is a aftermarket AutoZone one that I got for like $100, simply because I didn't want to buy the OEM one, which I should have because it's so much better. But I accidentally bought a 3-bolt one used from a Nissan, and the guy that I got it from had a 97 manual, and mine's a 97 manual. So mine has 2 screws whereas the one that I took it off of had 3. So I'm not sure what that has to do with. I thought it was automatic and maybe a manual thing, but they were both manual, unless mine was swapped or his was swapped, or the years, but his is a 97. So I'm not sure what that has to do with, but just take that into consideration so you know. Now what I have to do is swap over my MAF onto this housing and throw on my new gasket. Here it is, all bolted down. I just plugged in the MAF, so we're all good to go. And as you can see, the angle that I made it actually worked out pretty damn perfect. So right here I have my holes for my intercooler from when I previously did this. Intercooler is going to go right about here. Yeah, it comes in at the perfect angle. I just gotta throw some clamps on right here, obviously throw in the intercooler, do all that fun stuff. Huge shout out to my buddy Utah. I was able to knock this out at work today, so now I won't have the boot popping off when it's under pressure. I know it doesn't look that good, but it should hold. It's pretty much the same thing as the factory bead roll that this piping came with. And I wasn't able to do a bead roll over here, so I had to do a little bit of some cold aluminum welding on top in order to give me some sort of grip. Now it looks like the coupler that I'm going to be running, I'll get you guys in focus, it looks like this coupler is a little bit too long. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to cut about maybe 3 inches off, that way I can slide this, and this 90 portion is right up against the turbo, and therefore I can run it something like that. And then it'll point right where I need it down here. Now it's time to install the intercooler on the front end of the hard body right here. I got the intercooler all mocked up. Now the plan is to not really make it a sleeper since I'm not really planning on racing anyone. Sorry if there's any wind noise. But the plan is to kind of hide the intercooler behind the grill. So if you guys remember my old truck, my blue truck that was turboed, I had no front bumper, I had no headlights. I had a huge front mount, double the size of this. My exhaust was sticking out of the hood and it was just obnoxious, which is cool, but I plan on actually driving this on the streets. So I want to kind of make it a little bit more subtle, that way the cops can't tell. Now right now you would think, oh, there's a huge intercooler, but once the grill is on, you can barely see the intercooler. That's how I had it when I used to daily drive it, when it was all mismatched colors and everything. But you do see the red coupler, so I might end up getting some black couplers, that way you don't see the red on the edges, because when you look under the grill you're like, wait, hold on, there's an intercooler down there, what's going on? Everything seems to fit somewhat nice. I just need to throw on some clamps and clean everything up. Now, I don't have a clamp for this because this is a 2-inch and this is a 2.5 inch, but I will figure that out. And then I also need to make some actual brackets because right now I just have the intercooler zip tied up. So there it is, guys. The truck is now turbo. Now it is not done, but it is now turboed. You see the intercooler right there. Now I will be making more videos in depth as far as installing the boost gauge, the AFR gauge, the SAFC, and doing everything that I'm doing, pretty much the whole process. Now this video I didn't really show you guys too much in depth of how to do everything because it's pretty much bolt-on stuff. You take your stock exhaust, bolt everything on, do your oil feed like I showed you. But I'm also going to be giving away this brand new turbo that I have right here. So if you guys want to get a chance to win this, I'm going to be doing a giveaway on my Instagram, so I have that down in the description below in case you guys want to get a free turbo for your hard body. If you get a free turbo, then with that money you can buy a manifold and an intercooler piping set, and that's already halfway there. So that's going to complete this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it useful, and if you guys have any questions, you guys already know what to do. DM me on Instagram or comment down in the comment section below. Peace out, guys.